Governor Aspen left, and he's Lieutenant Governor Joseph now.
Nice to meet you all. Hey, my name is Daniel Bertram.
Hello, you related to Harvey?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Ishi. Hello. What's your name?
Ishi, sir.
Ishi?
Yes, yes. I just had some questions about tribal leadership. I took a course up there at Durango, Fort Lewis, especially involving economic development. It's a very interesting subject. But in my personal time, I also do things as far as private investigating. And what's come to my attention is the legal precedent, Indian and its usages.
Indian and what?
Its usage.
Uh-huh.
As far as like federal Indian policy, lots of different things you got to keep into factor, especially when you're contracting services. But I'm just wondering, as coming from a Kiowa nation, I do respect, even the ins and outs of the Llama Springs up there. I recently went up there and tried to work some things out as far as, because I guess there's a foundation there now or something. So.
The Yonah Springs?
Up there at Llama.
Oh, Llama.
Towards Westville, yeah. But my question is, as Tiwa people, do you consider the word Indian to be a correct means of identifying you as people?
Don't bother me.
But yeah, it's just something I have to think about.
As opposed to what other term would you use?
Well, I've heard many terms, indigenous, I've heard lots of different terms, but definitely when it comes to the word Indian, I feel like it's wrapped in so much conspiracy. Like there's so much hatred, lots of different things that came about being through this usage of this word. So that's why I had to come in, just, get your opinion about it, because definitely I do one day want to, become a great chief for my people.
Well, the word Indian, if you ask anybody who's over the age of 60 here, what are you, a Native American or Indian? Chances are they're going to say, I'm an Indian. It's a way that we've been described, and so the word Indian doesn't really offend, because the common knowledge is that when Christopher Columbus saw the first islanders, he called them Indians, but what he was saying was Indios, in God, children of God is what he meant, because they were out there in the beaches. They were, like in a hot climate, they only had breechcloths on. So he said, these are children of God, Indios. That's what he meant. So after the many, many years, people started saying, oh, he thought he was in India, so he called them Indians. So that's why Indios became Indian. But any Hispanic person in our area here, they refer to us as Indios. Yeah.
I just had to figure that out, because I've been studying federal Indian policy for a little while, and it's just, a lot of even how you have to contract services, it is very conflicting, especially to the privacy of, it just one's people. I believe you gotta label everything you have, everything you own, all the people you know within the tribe, just to even do things like have plumbing or, or those contracting services. So it's very interesting that you say that. I feel, us as Kiowa people, especially too, being placed on that reservation there in Oklahoma, it's very conflicting with our nature, our true way of being, to note when, especially someone who considered you to be an enemy, to be able to have this ability to label you in such a way without knowing who you are as people. I feel like, it's a tough discussion for me, but definitely I can see where you're coming from with the Indio perspective. But yeah, no, I just had to ask, because been coming back and forth. I live out in Carson,
Mm.
and definitely I've seen those people there at that well site.
Mm-hmm.
Is it medication well site? Or?
Supply wells and mitigation wells.
Right. And just seems like I stopped there once just to see what they were up to. You know, I didn't know anything.
So
about
what do
it.
you think now? What are they doing?
You know, I kind of feel like their heart's in a good place, but some of the Tiwa people I spoke to there, they were trying to tell me that as far as tribal leadership, there seems to be this gap in communication with several people within the tribe, just because of the history that presents itself for that to even be there. So I'm kind of in conflicts myself. I know that if anything, if this well were to be there to supply, even.
So do you believe them when they say that they're going to dry up the aquifer?
I have to put it into consideration that as far as where it goes, I have to feel like there's a lot of history being ignored when it comes in about to how that well is even being there. I hear all kinds of things. I guess the people working on the inside have been taunting them too with their message, and just it's really not good for business, if anything. So I feel like they probably have justification for being there in their own way, even them being Tiwa people there, because that's how I'm looking out for it right now. But definitely I feel like when it comes to indigenous rights or Indian rights, I feel like a lot of that history is being forgotten, and in hopes for even a better future. So definitely I do appreciate the time you've given me today.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you want to get a better understanding of what those wells are about, read the Taos Pueblo Indian Water Settlement. It's different from the Abeta that they talk about. And the whole settlement was negotiated over a period of 44 years. And those wells are to protect our land from being sucked dry, which is what was happening. See, a lot of the people out there on the outside, they have private wells. And if 500 people have private wells, what do you think they're doing to the aquifer? They're drying it up.
Yeah.
So the settlement said, who's the original users of the water in the valley? Taos Pueblo. We based our whole water case on our sacred buffalo pasture down here. They were drying up the aquifer so much that our buffalo pasture was going dry. So the settlement said, you have to move your wells a lot further away, and all of those people who have private wells have to connect to one single well. That's the only way we'll be able to save the water of this valley. Not just our pasture, but also the water that's in the aquifer. See, that's where they don't understand, these people who are protesting over there, that if you have 500 private wells, it's doing what they are protesting. Those 500 wells or should be what they should be protesting, because those 500 wells are each sucking up more water than the aquifer can supply. If they connect to one well, all those houses, then you're saving the aquifer. That's why those mitigation well and supply wells are two different things.
Okay.
And they're not even in operation. They're just, mitigation wells are dug just in case. Supply wells will come when you find a water source and you hook it up to all these 500 homes, and that will supply the water to those 500 homes. There's a big misunderstanding about this whole protest. They don't really understand why things are being done the way they are. This is Taos Pueblo's water settlement that's been honored right now. That's what's going on. We're in implementation phase right now. It's going to go on for the next 50 to 100 years. Taos Pueblo's water rights are being protected. And when I hear that they're digging so far down that they're gonna encounter uranium and all that, and they're gonna bring it to the surface and pump it into the river, who in the hell would agree to something like that? Any sane person would never agree to anything like that. That's stories that they make up, and pretty soon they tell it to somebody, and that person says it to somebody, and then pretty soon that becomes common belief. These wells are controlled. They have been studies going on these 44 years as to where the depths of water is. And we know that there's water there that's not good water. And there's water that's way down there that's good water. We don't want to tap into those. You want to tap into the good water that's near the surface. So a lot of these people, they don't understand what they're protesting, because I see their position changing every week from the time that that guy went up to the top of the well. Their positions have been changing as to what they're protesting. They can't agree on what it is that they are against. And I know some of my own cousins are out there from the Put tribe here. They're out there. And I told one of them about a week ago, I said, do you not understand why wells are being placed here and there? He said, I don't know. I said, you come in and you ask questions of your tribal government. Nobody's going to withhold that information from you. You have a right to that. To this day, none of those people have come in here to ask us anything, and they can't say that we're not providing information to them. We will tell them if they come in here and ask, and none of them do. None of them come in here and ever ask what's going on. They haven't bothered to read the settlement, and they are with the crowd that's spreading this information out there. They're hanging out with those people who are when this whole settlement was going on, the public comment period like they had last week, they had many of those where the public could come and comment and protest and say what they thought was wrong. This whole settlement was about participation from the public. So the public was allowed to comment every phase of the way. In 2012, the federal judge who was overseeing this case, he wasn't making a judgment on it. He was just overseeing to make sure that the Taos Pueblo and the neighbors kept talking. He gave them, there was a period of time that he set aside, I think it was a 2-year comment period. That was if anybody wanted to come forward and file papers, legal challenges to the settlement, they could have done it in that period of time. And there was only 2 people that came forward and said they wanted to challenge. And when the cases went before the courts, they didn't have a valid challenge. So whatever you hear out there, there was ample time given to the public. And we didn't sell our water, as a lot of people say. We didn't sell any of our water. Our water is spoken for many things, for farming, economic development, for population growth, for any areas that we have that are riparian areas that might be in danger of drying up. We have our water reserved for those things. So if you can understand that this case here that they're protesting is a case example of when the government gives an Indian tribe all its legal, what's coming to them. They gave us a lot of rights to our water. So if you ever want to take a case of Indian tribes getting their equal time and their first choice to the water. This is it. This settlement isn't unfair to Taos Pueblo. And if anybody says that, they don't understand the case. So that much I can tell you, you know, read up on it. You know, read up on the Taos Pueblo water settlement.
Cool.
It's a long document, but if you really want to understand it, there's terms in there that you won't understand, but research, and then you understand it.
Definitely, yeah, no, I came into conflict. For me, I'm thoroughly investigating the legal precedent and how it affects people as far as climate change and even how the missing and murdered indigenous women's movement is now a thing because of it. And one thing I had seen from multiple people now is that they give me the excuse that, well, because us native people, us native people, we even call ourselves Indian, and it's okay for them to continue to use this precedent in such a way, even after it does so much to people that they're completely unaware of. So that definitely it shapes my perspective on things, and I have to understand, you know, how even things like economic development, like over there in Kaiwa country, right, it's all oil country. So definitely we got to do several things as far as drilling. We have to contract people to come in and do what they're going to do in that sense. But when you look at the paperwork, and it has the word Indian in there, it's hard to really understand what they could be saying when they say that. I don't know if it's like a slanderous term or not, just because of how it's presented itself and how it's been used, but definitely.
That's the term that has been used from way back, and if you were to inject another term in there, you'd have a lot of, you have to be in documents, there's hundreds and hundreds of documents, and a lot of them say the United States government and the Indian tribes of the United States. If you were to substitute Indian nations, Native American, you would have to change hundreds and hundreds of documents. So to keep uniform in everything that is going on, you have to use the repetitive term, you know. So we have, you know, Taos Pueblo is about preservation. We hold a record of all the Indian tribes for preserving what we have here. If you've heard of the story of the Blue Lake,
Off and on, yeah, a little bit, yeah.
that was the first time an Indian tribe ever won any land back from the government. The Taos Pueblo Indian Water Settlement, the first time the United States government ever negotiated with the Indian tribe and gave them 3/4 of the water back. There's a lot of things that Taos Pueblo has done for itself that leads the Indian world, Indian nations in the United States. We are the preservation experts here. So we are the test case of Indian tribes that try to get their rights given back. We're leading in that. So if anybody out there is saying we signed a document that we didn't know what was being written on it, they don't know what they're talking about.
I guess so, yeah, no, definitely. Well, hey, I appreciate the time
All right.
you've given me.
Well, yeah.
Thank you again.
Okay.
You too, thank you for your time.
What type are you related to?
Thank you.
Who?
Chief, thank you.
Oh, I was related to the Sudos from out there, Kaiwa tribe. Yeah.
Definitely, we might be in relation.
Yeah, you never know. Okay.
Thank you again.
All right.
It's interesting to have his opinion about that.